And so everybody else, of course, was for that, which literally was endorsing the principle that we would get rid of Saddam Hussein, regime change. And so I took the 20 minutes in opposition, so I thought that wasn't all that bad. The rest of the Congress had 20 minutes, and I had 20 minutes to argue our case. But at that time, I said, this is literally an act of war. I mean, you're preparing to go to war. But that wasn't under Bush, and that was under Clinton. And that proves our point so often that there's not that much difference between the parties when it comes. There's difference in who gets who controls the power, but I think sometimes that is a facade just to make us think that we're having competition. But where is the difference between the two candidates now on foreign policy? I mean, they totally ignore domestic policy. Do you think one of them has the least question about the Federal Reserve? Do you think they have the least desire to cut spending enough to get rid of the income tax? I mean, domestic policy, monetary policy, foreign policy, all of this, all exactly the same. And yet we so often expect our people to believe that there's a real contest going on between the two parties. But by the time that march to war came in year 2002, in that one book that I put my speeches together, and somebody says, boy, this is a great book. When did you get time to do that? I said, well, that one took me 30 years. Because it took the speeches from back to 1976. Yet in 2002, and in between 98 and 2002, I mean, you can look at the record, and I was just doing my very best, to try to prevent this, because I thought for sure it would come, and surely it did. So when it finally came to our committee, I said, to make a point, I'm going to offer a substitute resolution. I'm not going to vote for it, but this is what you should do if you want to go to war. This is a declaration of war. And this means that we're serious. You're going to explain it. The people need to be behind it. If it's a serious threat, we should all be behind it, fight it, and win it, and get over with it. But no more political wars, no more Koreas, and no more Vietnams, and no more persistent intervention, willy-nilly, any old time a president of either party wants to do it. And boy, I'll tell you what, there was pretty loud shouting and innuendos there. I mean, the chairman of the committee immediately said, Ron, and he didn't use my name, right? Congressman Paul, we know you're the champion of the Constitution and all this, but don't you know that part of the Constitution is anachronistic? We don't follow it anymore. And then the Democratic side said, I don't know why you bring this up. This is frivolous to bring this up. And I mean, that is the amount of respect that they have. But I always wondered whether maybe there was a plan to always, to go to war because of the political gamesmanship that is played. Because I do believe there's some honest desire to have power, but I think the kingmakers, the people up on top, sort of influence both sides. And they said, the kingmakers here, who knows what, and they wanted to make sure that they had control, and surely they did. So we had this vote, but I think the motivation behind this is that when things don't go well, the opposition can go, and blame the administration. But here it is, the contrivance was with both parties all these years to plan for this and support it. And if they really wanted to end the war, they could. The Democrats finally win the election in 2006, and it was a mandate, and the Republican gets thrown out. What's the first act that Pelosi does? There was a supplemental bill that had a bill of ours in, and we had gotten it put in, and the bill said, you shouldn't even need a bill like this. It said, you can't go to war with Iran without getting approval from Congress, something. And she removed it. She removed it deliberately. And then the astounding thing is they asked her why, and she said the leadership in Israel asked her to. I mean, that is how amazing it is that was in the newspaper, and that was in the Washington Post, that she was asked by AIPAC and others not to do that. And and yet, we continue this process over and over again. But now things aren't going well, and it's still politicized. So, Scott McClellan, too bad he didn't see the light a little sooner, But he's seeing the light, and it can't hurt our side, because at least, even though he's saying everything we've known for a long time, people have lied and cheated and contrived and fudged the records and everything else. And in some ways, I think they gave every single person in the CIA a black eye. And I'm not very happy with the CIA. I don't think that much of that organization. But I know some people who have been in it, and they're sincere, good Americans, and that they get painted. They take that and they change this information and feed it to the Congress and said, oh, yeah. So now the lies are coming out. And the Democrats are playing on this. And, and to me, I think it's because this is what they hold in store. But they're not going to prosecute or do anything. This is just all demagoguery. If they were serious, they would immediately remove the funding or do something, to end the war. But it's just a gamesmanship, how to get one up on the opposition to get reelected and throw one group out versus the other. And the American people think, oh boy, this is the most important election in our lifetime. And if we have Obama instead of McCain, or McCain instead of Obama, the world's coming to an end. Well, unfortunately, the country's going to come to an end unless we do something. And now, of course, that's where the good news is. A lot is being done. This year has been fantastic. I mean, it is true, and I've said this very many times to so many of our rallies, that many have signs, and they said that I've removed their apathy. And they've been apathetic, they didn't care, and we've gotten them excited, and finally they get interested in politics. And I tell them, I said, well, you have removed my skepticism, because I was a skeptic. For years, 2, 3, 4 years, strong supporters would come, and I figured they were just as dizzy as anybody. Oh, yeah, you have to run for president. Yeah, sure, I need to run for president. Like that's a serious job, running for president. But actually, they worked on me, and finally, on the final decision was made, because I felt so strongly about the war and foreign policy. I thought that was the issue, and figured if I did go out there, maybe it could do some good. So I made that decision to run, and yet today, I come away not being a skeptic. I am so much more encouraged for 2 reasons. The work that Bumper and Future Freedom Foundation and the other good libertarian organization have done now for 20 years, you are much further along than I ever dreamed. There are more people out there. The remnant is big. And we can't count the remnant. We know that. But it is big, and it's gigantic. And not only that, we had the young people joining in droves. And it's so delightful to see people coming into the office now. I have a lot of visitors, and mostly young people bringing their parents. And I always ask a kid, I says, all right, now who's the true believer? Who started it? Is it you or is it you? Is it the parent or the kid? It's so often it's the teenager. Not even a voting age. And they're totally excited. And you think, oh yeah, maybe he saw some musical and liked this video, and it's just all superficial stuff. It isn't. They can answer the questions. They know about, they said, they'll bring up the subject of monetary policy all the time. They'll say, how is it that the people in Washington think that they can just print money all the time and not have, its value go down? And where do they get this authority to have the Federal Reserve? They go on, and really, we get their attention. We get their attention on foreign policy. This week, I had 4 students come in, and they just happen to be Jewish, which always delights me also, because we stereotype too easy and figure that AIPAC is the only group that can speak for our relationship with Israel. And yet, just think of all our our many mentors, in this movement,